so on this beautiful sunny day that the Creator has given to us, we ask for the guidance and wisdom of the ancestors who went before us and those whose lives were lost in the Middle Passage, as we commune weekly in this book club on Yurugu. And particularly, we ask that the ancestors hold and guide us in our study today. As we pour libations, please keep in mind your ancestors whom to you embody the following principles and also who have guided you on your path so far. As we pour libations, the response is Ashe, so be it. We pour libations for all who dared to define, defend, and develop our interests as people. We say Ashe.
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 We pour libations for our ancestral land. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour for our people then and now. We say
Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libations for our children and those yet unborn. We say
Ashe.
Ashe. We pour for Kawaida, Ngozo Saba, and Ma'at. We say
Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour for the systems of views and values which give identity and purpose to our lives. We say
Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour for the new world we struggle to build and for the continuing struggle to reconstruct and reconnect our history and humanity in our own image and words according to our needs. We say
Ashe.
Ashe. We also ask that the ancestors drink heartily and quench your thirst. We say
Ashe.
Ashe.
Monica Sa, it is finished, it is done. Thank
Ashe.
you.
Ashe.
Whew.
Now,
Right.
chapter 6, I loved it. I don't know how many of you guys loved it, but
Yeah.
I loved it. And I thought it was very important. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, what does she mean by when she mentions, she created a term called rhetorical ethics?
Mhm.
And how is that,
Mhm.
how she's tying that to the European Asili?
So one of the things I was mentioning to, I think I mentioned to Eugene and I think Veronica as well, the word rhetorical, that threw me for a loop. And the reason it threw me was because in my mind, I always thought rhetorical was a statement not requiring an answer, simply. And then when I looked it up, it actually meant, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it meant like a persuasive statement. So when I read persuasive and I transferred that from rhetorical to persuasive ethic, the reading made more sense to me. So, so I'm going to use that as my in. I might be wrong, but that's how I interpreted it. And some of the things that what was the question again? I just wanted to say that because I don't know,
Rhetorical
I couldn't
ethic.
understand it. Huh?
What does it mean?
Rhetorical
And
ethic.
what does
What
it
does
mean?
she
And
mean
how-
by it?
Yeah,
Right. So what it means, I'm gonna
the ethic itself.
Rhetorical ethics and how she's using it.
So how she's using it is to explain things like, there was an example that she gave about doctors. I think that's the right chapter. Doctors, how you think about doctors being altruistic, there for the good of the people. And then on the next sentence, she talks about how the doctor, if they were seen to be looking more to make money, it would be, or they didn't work according to what we believe them to do. They could be sued for malpractice and stuff. So really the doctors may be there for good reason, but the reasons are not always good. Does that make sense? No.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Make any
No,
sense.
it makes sense, but I don't think that's what
It doesn't answer the question.
it doesn't answer the question. I think what
It
I
was
think
more of an
what-
example.
Well, Eugene, let's hear your point. Let's hear everybody's point. And
yeah. I think like rhetorical ethic, what she's trying to say is that, yeah, you present something that sounds good. And it sounds like, ideas that everybody should be striving for. But behind that is only said in a way to get you to believe that this is what we should all be striving for, when really it's being said, it's being really said to persuade you to go for that. It's like they're giving you something to go for, where when they're really not going for that. They're not falling for that, but they want you to fall for it. So it's like they're giving you.
What was Linda saying when she said something?
No,
She just not.
I was agreeing with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a
Okay.
persuasion. It's like a persuasion. And I think it's also like what it's like what we like a
But
general.
focus on how she's using it, because the reason why I asked this question is because it's all over the chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like just formally like saying how we should act based on what is the persuasion is. Yes, we'll go along with it because it sounds good, but if you really look at it, it's not meant for what is being said or what is being persuaded to be done. You persuade to like, I think we talked a little bit in the chapter. It was about following Christian to save souls. It's not about that really. The persuasion seems delightful. Yes, my soul is saved, but actually it's like an overtake of a controlling of people.
Yeah. This was it's used
Sounds
for.
good. You should jump on
Pharrell,
board.
what about you, Pharrell?
That was a good one. Yeah, so like it reminds me of because I'd be doing the history thing, but Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal and stuff, but on the front it looks like it's good, yeah. But on the the people that wrote those obviously was holding other people as slaves, so or denying other people their humanity. I don't know, but so based like I said, so it sounds good. It sounds universal. Yeah, it sounds but it's but it's I don't know, maybe just a not. It's ambiguous. You know what I'm saying? Like it sounds cool, but
no,
my definition.
She defines it. She created that term and she defined it and she's using it. So that's why I said how she.
No, I'm not saying that's. I'm saying when the rhetoric is ambiguous in regards to I can say all men are created equal, but my definition of man might be different than your definition of man. I'm saying that type of ambiguity, like it's not contextualized. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think so.
Veronica?
I would say that I think she was reinforcing the idea that in order for us to continue to really accept what was being presented to us as the right way, the good way, the way we should live and speak and act and that sort of thing, that was being determined by the that European rhetoric or what they said, what they speak. But they were saying these things not because it was something that they believed, but they said it as if it belonged to them, like as if it was something that they were really pushing out there. They gave you one vision of how things should be that put them really in that light of control so they can continue to have power over others. It wasn't something they ever had to follow. It was like, I just said, that persuading us that this is the good, this is the way that we should be, this is the way to see them actually, because they were saying this is how we are, and they wanted others to see that. However, it wasn't meant for them. They were the total opposite of what they said. And she spoke a lot about the means that they used to get there. Things like that. The Christian ideology was another way that they reinforced it, because they taught Christianity. However, they never followed all the concepts that were related to it. Um, and if they did, it would go against their very nature. They couldn't do all the things that they did to others if they actually believed or actually spoke to us truths. So it's basically it's the lies. She used the word lie, and it was basically
Well,
the lies.
I think the other word is hypocrisy as well.
yes,
As it
yes.
applies to
Well,
today.
let
Today,
me
it applies to today.
because I like tying things together, right? You know, there's a chapter or a section in the book way in the beginning that talks about appearance and reality. And we're not dealing with the reality when we talk about rhetorical ethics. We're mainly talking about the appearance, how they want us to look at them. And this is important because television also play a role in this, right? All like the last chapter that we just talked about played a role in this. And so really these are people who they don't practice what they preach. Just to simplify, just make it simple, concise. They're not practicing what they preach. They're a bunch of hypocrites. And I like the example of all men created equal. We all actually have the same definition of man because we all speak in the English language and there is a dictionary. So there is a standard of definition. Now, whether they look at you as a man or not, that's their cognitive dissonance. But we can't focus on cognitive dissonance. We got to focus on the actual reality. You are a man and they should be looking at you as a man. However, they have these things, and really, because of their asili, they tend to divide stuff like the now. So, what is a man? Or a man is gotta have property. If he doesn't own property, he doesn't have the right to vote. Stupid stuff like that. There's always a standard that they do not meet. They always have like a double standard. And so, in terms of ethics, now we're dealing with morality. And if you can look at when the Native American, I'm using an example she didn't use, but the Native Americans, when the Spanish came over here, they were like, these people are so spiritual that we can indoctrinate them and imply the Christian name. And if you look, you can in 1433, you can read some of their documents and how they really were like diabolical. They're talking about we gotta lie, we gotta do all these crazy things. And so look at that date in 1433, just before them coming over here and what they wanted to do in terms of spreading their power, right? And so there's many examples of these things. And so now when it comes to ethics, they talk about, oh, you got to be good. Even they do it even now. You got contemporary stuff. Donald Trump broke so many laws and all these things, and he's gotten away with it. Let you do that and see what happens to you, right? And so they have their double standard. They have, and like you said, hypocritical. But the main thing they always political. Your white friends practice politics with you all the time. And we were just talking about this, Sunshine and I, where, for example, let's say they discover that they always think that they're smarter than you until they discover that you are actually smart. And when they know you're smarter than them, they're not going to say you're smarter than me. They're going to equate your intelligence with theirs and not say, oh, you're smarter than me. It's always like some political maneuver, always trying to be ahead of everybody. And they deal with this a lot in everything they do. They this is why they don't transfer power to their children. Like in African culture, there was a transfer of power. The king didn't want to be in a throne forever. And so there was like the child was given like responsibilities. And so now what we have done in the Western world, now we don't think 20-year-olds are adults. So there's no accountability anymore. Oh, they're young. They're like 30, 25. Oh, they're young. And those type of things, the more we do these things, it just hurts us. And they are gonna always be, they're gonna always consider themselves on top. This ties into the last, the image, the hypocrisy of like the hero. Like we have a thing about support the troops. They're defending this country in the United States. Like who's attacking the United States?
Actually, interesting when you say that. I was looking at the very first section in chapter 6, and I read it and I read it and I go, that's just an example that she's given there. But when you read it and you hear the hypocrisy in the first 2 paragraphs, Reagan says that charges that his administration had swapped arms for hostages are utterly false. Next line, Reagan removes Vice Admiral John M. Poindexter from the Office of National Security Advisor for his role in the Iranian arms deal that never happened.
So in the United States, for example, is a perfect example. There's a thing between like image versus character.
Yeah.
There's not like they don't have the character they preach they have.
Mhm.
And so, like in African culture, it used to be where a person was judged by their character. Now, in Western culture, you alpha male.
Mhm.
We have this alpha and beta, alpha chicks. Like, that's actually the discourse happening in among certain parts of the community.
No, I think what happens as well, like in today, what's used is more for public relations kind of setup.
Yes.
So they put
That's
it
all the
forward.
time, even in the family,
Yeah. So now, it doesn't have to be true, but it has to make sense.
right.
It has to look right, So it's all
Yeah.
about how it appears to the masses.
Yeah.
So I was discussing this with Eugene, and I said, even in the modern day COVID pandemic that we're going through, I'm sure everybody's heard these terms: in an abundance of caution, deep dive. People are hearing, this is a buzzword now, deep dive, right? They have trends, buzzwords all the time. Needles in arms, right? They're all terms that everybody uses. Everybody's writing it everywhere because it's the buzzword that you have to have included in your whatever. What does it actually mean? In an abundance of caution. I look and I go, I am not sure that everybody understands what that means. Right? But it sounds great, right? It sounds like you got your finger on the pulse. Needles.
No, but even our perception, or the majority of the people's perception as that being sounding great, what it really demonstrates is our ignorance.
Yeah.
Like there's a word that we use all the time and we don't really know, we're using it incorrectly. We don't even know what's the epistemology, right? And that's nice. The word nice. If you look up like its origin, you're not gonna like the word.
Tell us, Rob. Tell us. Preach.
Yes,
No. I'm just gonna leave it like that, so y'all could do the word.
I want to hear if we all agree with what that word means. No, give
first words I'm gonna go look up.
Nice.
The thing, words, knowing words, like when we're using words, we got to be very careful because we spellbound, right? We're caught up in the spell of words, and she talks about this, right? She mentions.
Look up the word nice. Give me a minute.
Go ahead. She mentions forked tongue.
You don't have to go in there.
I'll look it up.
She mentions the forked tongue, and all that. She mentions this in the book, and it's important.
The meaning of nice is just being agreeable.
A lot of times, a lot of times, no, it's not the meaning, where it comes from. You got to look at
Oh,
the
where it comes from.
etymology. I said epistemology. I misspoke again. I'm always getting misspeaking for some. So listen, I also said last week Japan created gunpowder. No, it's China. I meant to say China. And so if you look it up, see this thing keep on falling. Hold on one second. I'm gonna have to put the regular screen on this. Give me 1 second. Where did Linda's go?
Comment.
Oh,
She went to look up the word.
not look it up. She got to look at the etymology. And so one of the things with rhetorical ethics is that their deception, their lies, everything that they're doing is like, and this is why it's the best. Just to sum it up real quick, is very Machiavellian, right?
Yeah.
I hope you guys read the Machiavellian, because that's how the white politician behaved. They even studied. Is a recommended read for politicians. And these are the values. This is the value that they cultivate. You know, and so then if you have a value that you're cultivating, that's a culture. Did you look it up, Linda?
I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Neshes, something like Neshes or something.
There
It's
she goes. That's correct. Sunshine.
Stemming from meaning ignorant, foolish, or silly.
Yes.
Nesh or Neshens.
So be nice.
Yeah.
Be foolish.
And we think it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Be a nice slave.
Yeah.
Yeah, we given power to that word is
no. And the thing is, the problem here is that, see, because we lack spirituality, right? Because really, there's no real separation between spirituality and religion. Africans never thought that way. Everything was included: science, spirituality, religion, all that stuff was all one thing. This is how we lived. They are the ones who create the dichotomy, the separation. So they're separating everything. And so what happens is most people look at the world compartmentalized. They don't look at the whole. When they're looking at one thing, they're not connecting it to everything else. So basically, if you was a circle, you'd be a degree, and instead of looking at the 360 degree, you're looking at the 30 degrees only. And so you don't get the whole pie. Go ahead, Robert. What was you gonna say?
I was gonna say basically why do you think that is? I forget. You had said something, and I was gonna ask you why do you think that is, but I forget what you had said. My bad.
What do you want to say your statement that you had? So we can work on that.
I sure can. Let me go to. I got a whole bunch of.
I have my green screen up, and it collapsed on me. So if you see a little green, that's because it's still up, but it collapsed.
You're good, Rob.
Hey, Lindis. What do nice mean to you?
I know that I try not to use it because it doesn't mean anything, really. It's a very nondescript way of talking about things. That's how I looked at nice before. So I try not to use it. Did I use it today? No, I don't think I did.
Grade 1 students use it a lot.
I know.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking when you said the word, the amount of times that I hear that. And
Mhm.
we actually did it with the word good too. Like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
don't tell me good again. I don't want to hear that word.
Find
Another
other
word.
words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think of another word.
Yeah, but you're speaking their language, and that's the thing, you know. So you kind of have to
Well,
fit
this is
something in there, you know.
yeah,
And
this
that's
is
the
why she chose to analyze
Mhm.
Western culture through African lens, and because they have concepts
Mhm.
that helps in defining these things,
Mhm.
you know. And so even in terms of a lot of the stuff, they tend to like adopt people's traditions and change them and create it in their own way, you know. Like I think she mentioned Christianity about that, like how they altered Christianity,
Mhm.
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert, you ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, I can vibe off of your thing. I got that Christianity quote where she talks about I think she says what Nietzsche says about Christianity on 324.
Nietzsche, Roy. You know he's a lunatic, right? He went he actually went bonkers. Was he
Everybody
didn't
knows.
he not? No, he didn't eat. He was like he didn't need to eat. I think he died. And what was the page number?
324 at the top of 324.
Original
Uh
sympathy.
I
Mhm.
think it says Nietzsche says that it tends to weaken, talking about Christianity, I believe, that it
Right.
tends to weaken, and he is right, but it weakens other cultures while strengthening European power. And then the quote is Christianity is called the religion of sympathy. Sympathy stands in antithesis to the tonic passions which elevate the energy of the feeling of life. It operates depressively. One loses force by sympathizing.
But that's his critique of Christianity and like how Essex oh it makes you weak. He's saying, and you know that's all
And
that
I
part
think
is.
that's what she's saying, that, yeah, basically that is its effect on us, uh, or people that are living
Well,
under
no,
the
they because they
Italy.
the European culture don't allow you to sympathize, and it makes you weak. So certain people like Nietzsche, Ayn Rand, these are people who come and like they'll criticize religion in that sense because they say it makes you weak and all that, and it
But the quote at the bottom of that paragraph talks about this is Nietzsche, Rand, and Spengler. Often theorists of the right in the West are more
yeah.
honest in their denial of the professed values of the Christian ethic than are the European liberals in their verbal support. All too often, this is the only distinguishing feature between them.
They're the determinative racists.
Yeah, they're the ones who, you know, admit
They're
and
not the liberals.
No. Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Anybody else have any
Questions?
questions,
I
comments?
do. I have a question.
Sunshine.
Okay. Are we in this section of the radical ethic in operation? Because that's where my question is.
Wherever you want to
Yeah,
go.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Rhetoric and behavior.
When she when they're referring to Robin Williams quote and the other quote, can I get some clarity? Okay, the quote, it starts off with European behavior and values. The following statement is from Robin Williams.
What page?
Who,
What page?
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It's 324, the last paragraph.
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so maybe if we just start with like the radical ethic in operation. So it's just how that just means how Europeans are using it. I'm looking for clarification.
That's what it comes across to me. Is the
Okay.
You mean no, it's rhetorical ethics. That's what
Yes.
we've been talking about. Not
Okay,
radical.
but no, but in operation, because that's the topic. In operation, are they showing how how it affects negatively?
How it's being
how
used.
they're using it.
How they're using it. Okay, so in the quote, so I read at the last 3 lines. The following statement is from Robin Williams, who uses ostensible.
Who's ostensible?
Stance in one uncommitted is that it is objective sociological analysis of contemporary American society. I just was looking for a little bit of clarification there, because she compares it further down to another person, and I couldn't get the comparison.
Who's the other person? There's Williams.
Yes, Williams.
Williams and sorry, my finger just hit the thing and I'm on my phone. Goodness, 324. Okay. Who else is she compared to? I think I wrote it down. She compared it to
the other page.
I think it was 325. I'm so sorry.
Well, she's saying
Wayne McLeod on page 326.
Yes.
What she's saying is what they're stating, right? Like what is their rhetorical ethics is that's not really how they behave. It's what everybody else was talking about. They don't behave that way. They don't that's not their real value. Okay. And this is where you get the hypocrisy part of it too.
Okay.
So, and they give examples of humanitarian mores, which really isn't.
Right.
The humanitarians are supposed to be the saviors, so it always means that they are superior to the people that they're helping. Christianity.
Hey, Linda, can you read the last paragraph on 326 all the way into where it finished at 327?
Oh,
where it says white supremacy?
Are we going to skip over philanthropy? Because philanthropy is always supposed to be a good thing.
No, I mean, like there's a guy, what's that Indian dude that busts people philanthropists for being like, they always have some side motive. That's why I said they're like Machiavellian, right?
And it's funny, I always thought philanthropists were white people. I never considered myself a philanthropist because I gave money or donated to this cause and that cause. And then one day I went on the course, I go, but hang on, I'm a philanthropist, but maybe I shouldn't take that term because it probably has bad connotations. Let me do what you said. Let me just read that last paragraph.
You're not a philanthropist.
No,
you're not a philanthropist.
Okay, so white supremacy, is that where you wanted to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we could talk about the philanthropy thing if you want to, but
I think that's a very interesting topic. But let's do this. We can go back. So white supremacy is characteristic of European culture, not exceptional or aberrant. And Nazism is the manifestation of the extreme possibilities of these tendencies when the control mechanisms of the culture fail. That is when the destructive...
Hold on 1 second. That's what's happening right now. That's why people is afraid of what's going on in America, especially when Donald Trump was talking the way he was. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. That is when the destructive tendencies are unleashed among Europeans. Robin Williams, on the other hand, is Robin Williams the actor? No, not Robin Williams.
No.
I was thinking he's very astute if that was him. Anyway, Robin Williams, on the other hand, struggles to demonstrate the logical inconsistency of racial determinism with Western ideals. The strategy is simple. Actually, I bracketed off this as well. By verbally disavowing white nationalism, the practice of white supremacy, European Americans, are thereby able to avoid dealing with it. They cannot confront it because intuitively they know what they would never admit. That is an inherent part of their cultural heritage.
Mhm.
They are committed to their culture and therefore indirectly to white nationalism.
Yeah.
To eradicate white supremacist ideology from the institutionalization of the culture would imply radically changing themselves and what it means to be European. It would imply a different Asili, a different biocultural being.
There you go.
There you go.
Mhm.
There you go.
And this is the conflict. And if any white person tries to do that,
Mhm.
they going after you, you know. But do anybody really understand that? Do y'all understand what they're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
Mhm.
Do anybody have any questions about that statement?
The part about the change, that's just that would just be, that would, I don't know, the part about the change, it would require change. I don't know, it just sounds profound, as in
It is
what
profound.
what would it take? You know what I mean? Like, seriously, what would it take? Would it take
Yeah.
genocide? What would it take? I don't
No,
know.
no. What she means is because the genocide already been happening. So that's the
Okay.
Western Asili.
Okay.
What it means is we basically will be welcoming them back to humanity.
Oh,
We'll be like,
wow.
because
Wow.
because it, where it comes from, how it was derived, you know. And if you read other books like Iceman Inheritance, Michael Bradley, the Canadian, he tells you where this comes from, this aggressiveness, this
But
whole.
they wouldn't change, because if they
Yeah.
change, it would mean that the Asili as we know it, as she
Wouldn't be
said,
yes,
would
really.
not be there anymore.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
wouldn't be that. I don't
yeah.
mean this.
And like, but there are people like, remember when Christianity was first developed, like the Essenes, who had a more African interpretation of spirituality and stuff like that, and the Romans took them out. The Christian Romans, right, took them out, and so that there are people who have that capacity, but to be exercised is to be ostracized. You know, you're
Yeah.
not gonna
For,
gain, and they're gonna benefit off of the society being that way. There's a benefit to it too.
Mhm. So it's easy for them to just deny something, and once they deny it, it means they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Look
So
at
that's,
they
yeah.
but
haven't dealt with hate crimes
Yeah.
with
right.
African Americans in the United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
But
They,
where did
But they dealt with it with the Asians immediately, 1 year, one time
what
they and got it.
but where they use the Asili for their own gain is they create a space for them to be right even when they're wrong. Correct?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just trying to go with the, they will create that space.
they always created
They
basically.
always create a
Hmm.
space to, which means they are the hypocrite, to right any wrong so that they're not wrong.
There's hypocrisy involved.
They
Yes.
don't right the wrong. It's
Just
smokes
deny
and
it.
mirrors.
They
It's
just
smokes
deny.
and
Yeah.
mirrors. That
Okay.
first paragraph was succinct.
But
Yes.
They
also
denied it, then they did
understand
it
the Asili when
shorter.
she mentions the Asili, all this is happening to maintain power.
Mhm.
Power, yeah.
Mhm.
Because if anybody accused them of no, they will find a way to use the Asili to say, but
No, because they have the Asili, this is
They,
how they behave.
because they have this, they're using it. Okay.
Yes, the silly is
No.
tied to your. I mean, I think it's the same with us. I would assume it's tied to your identity. So, like, it's like if somebody was like, "Oh, your name ain't this anymore." Like that's a pretty big, that's a big pill to swallow. Um, yeah, where you from there? That's like a whole breakdown, and it's messed up. Um,
It's yeah, like the cultural DNA, right? You know, like it's the
Yeah.
you have
I
this seed that when it germinates, it germinates this way, no
Mhm.
matter what, because
Yeah.
it's that seed. So for them to change, they have to replace that
Yeah.
with another seed and let that seed grow. They will have to change their
Yeah.
whole value system.
That is almost impossible, because if you think about
It is
it means you have to it has to go into
possible, but
extinction. It has to be extinct in order for it not to exist anymore.
what
Yeah.
happened is they went
That's
part of the
true.
problem was the when they first went to the Nile Valley, they could not maintain that level of Matian behavior, like that whole process.
Yeah.
And this is why they had a hard time trying to take that over. They needed to change that way of life. They actually they flipped the whole tree of life, so to speak, upside down, right?
Yeah.
Now what's up and down? They literally turned the planet upside down, because we were looking at the planet like where the 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 European where they were living at was in the bottom in the map, and everybody else was on the top. They literally turned that around. That's how far they've gone, and they
Mm.
have gone even further because they wanted to change it. They're proud. I mean, this is why Plato and Pythagoras and all they had a hard time in the schools.
Yeah.
They had to
They
do
just
many
couldn't get
years
it.
there because
Yeah.
it just wasn't. They
They
weren't
couldn't
just
get
getting
past
it.
grade 1.
They have taken concepts and bastardized it. This is why people argue that Christianity originated from Kemet, but really they created their own thing. They missed like this is why even the Greeks when they created their cosmology and they had the Greek gods and all that. They tried to create something similar to Kemet and they created their own version and the version they have is like there's a big difference. And if you read the book from Jacob Carruthers, Intellectual Warfare, he makes a distinction.
I'm looking at page 332, and there's a paragraph
332.
there that I think sort of describes what you're talking about there.
That's my question.
Oh, Eugene has a question. You want to do the question first, or
Yeah, the
okay,
question.
yeah,
It could
give
be
me
a
the
Okay.
statement too, Eugene, if you
Yeah,
want to
so
make a statement.
this is my little one of the parts that I wanted to go over. What is the European false consciousness, and
What page?
what effect does it have on our continent?
That's an unfair question because not that many people read the book, the Amos Wilson book.
So can I read the quote to just refresh people's, because that comes out of that
Well, yeah,
part of the book, right?
What
So
page is this?
page 332.
Thank you.
A European acting out of a false consciousness debilitates the objects of European oppression by lessening their ability to see straight or to correctly analyze European behavior based on understanding of the asylee of the culture. A European who is deceived about who he is merely succeeds in deceiving non-Europeans. That's where Eugene, I think your question came out of that.
State that again. State that again.
You gotta read the whole
With the
thing a
whole thing?
second time. You
All
gotta
right.
State that. Go ahead.
read the whole thing.
A European acting out of a false consciousness debilitates the objects of European oppression by lessening their ability to see straight or to correctly analyze European behavior based on an understanding of the asylee of the culture. So what he's saying there, you got to understand the asylee of the culture to understand that the European is providing a false.
Yeah. So to understand the European infrastructure, or let me say it like that, because I'm gonna go to the infrastructure. You have to you you can't just go by how they paint themselves to be, their
Mhm.
appearance. So for instance, NATO really is a way for that. If you understand the European assembly, NATO is a institution as a tool for them to maintain power, and they expanded it where now you got the Asians involved, like part of NATO, and the G7. Remember, it used to
Yep.
be eight,
Seven.
and
Yeah.
they made it seven because they took the Russians out. So these are the countries that had to vote up or down, and nobody else could vote because this is where they create, instead of having the whole NATO vote on this because they will lose. They know this. They create another dichotomy and separate themselves from the very thing that they created, which is NATO. And this whole helping people. Another example, they tell you they're helping
Say.
people.
That's what they say.
The all oh, we need to go to Iraq, and he's killing people. The people want to be saved. He got weapons of mass destruction. It's all a lie. You know, even it was proven that Assad, like in Syria, that's another thing that they were trying to do. The stuff in Yemen were
Yeah.
part of that genocide happening in Yemen. And so we are like, oh, we ain't doing nothing. And one of the things, concepts that comes into mind every time we talk about this is American exceptionalism, right? Where the United States says, oh, we're the leaders of the world and we're for justice and all that. They try to, last like a months ago, they try to tell Japan that what they doing with Hong Kong is wrong, and Japan said, listen, you guys killing your own people. Y'all killing black folks over there. What's wrong with you? You
Yep.
dare come and play that moral card on us when you are doing. So the Chinese understand
Yeah.
very well the European
Mhm.
ceiling.
Well,
The problem is
Mhm.
Africans don't.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking about globally.
Yeah.
And this is why she wrote this book.
Hmm.
See, I hate this.
So I was going to suggest also that the
Oh,
IMF is probably
there
in
you
the
go.
same category,
That's why she wrote this book.
right? There you go, easier. Yeah, the IMF would be in the same category as well.
IMF,
They,
World Bank,
yeah,
Yeah.
even
yeah.
even the CDCs, all those things, all
Mhm.
that, because what they're not dealing with, even the scientists. Remember, these people. How, remember, she talks about doctors, and we think doctors are there for highly ethical reasons, and really they there for the money.
Yeah.
Physios are there for the money, but we also have ethical reasons. You
No,
gotta
I
earn
mean,
some money
you
somewhere.
you're gonna get paid, but really the doctors are the ones that get paid, especially in the United States.
Virgins.
Yeah.
So what I like though is Francis Welsing, who has a fantastic quote on page 333. People of color have not understood where white people were coming from day one. Right now, black people keep assuming that what they feel about other people, white people also feel. And I think that's true, I think that is true. Non-white people all over the world are baffled by how easily white people move into hypocrisy and deceit. We just have not been able to fathom it. If you are operating on one logic system and you encounter somebody who's coming from a completely different logic system, you may not be able to figure it out, especially if they are really fine in their methodology of deceit.
Yeah. They know how to
We
do
got to
it.
remember that.
That speaks clearly.
Further down on that
And,
page,
and
the
what she says,
listing.
she drives home the
Yeah,
point of dishonesty, hypocrisy, and moral lies are
yeah.
inherent in the functional to the cohesion of European derived culture. That's part of the culture.
Veronica she said she had a comment there, which
Go
was
ahead,
very-
Veronica.
I was just saying that the list that she provides of the characteristics of the rhetorical ethic, I think that's very significant too, because it just pulls it all together there too. Number one, it is a statement that is in no way normative for the European, i.e., it is not a guide for behavior. Two, it is directed towards, i.e., meant to affect people outside of European societies, those who are the intended political victims. Its purpose is to facilitate Western European imperialism by immobilizing nationalistic resistant movements of other people and making European dominance appear to be the result of disinterested and altruistic motivation.
Mhm.
Carry on, Veronica.
There's nothing in the European belief system that supports action on behalf of others. It is observed to describe altruism as a major value or central current in European ideology. Okay, you want me to go on? As William
That's
and
it.
Sandra
That's
have
it.
No, I mean, this is why it's absurd for us to even think that they're here, they do things to help us. Like, oh, we're trying to help, Africa. Like Obama, oh, we're gonna try to help develop Africa and stuff like that. Like, no, oppress. And then, but they'll justify it. They'll lie, and there's a smear campaign.
The rhetoric. That's where the rhetoric comes in.
There was a part earlier that she said.
Do y'all understand that for real? Like, y'all really understand that? Do y'all understand the capacity of the people in power to really not to be dishonest?
Mm-hmm.
There was a part earlier. I mean, we passed this area where she said that I think it was 326. 326. Yeah. She was talking about their behavior. And she said what it reveals, however, is that it is in the nature of the culture that its participants can say one thing and feel another, that words do not indicate commitment, that hypocrisy is a behavioral standard. And I thought that's so relevant, so significant. Okay? And that this kind of verbal denouncing and superficial analysis, in fact, allows for the persistence of those very aspects that has been pronounced as bad. She was referring to Williams, at the very least, naive in belief that verbal condemnation of exploitative and imperialistic behavior implies that American culture emphasizes disinterested concern for others. Okay, she went on to say, again, it is often the avowed European chauvinist who offers more accurate descriptions of European behavior.
That so when we go anywhere, like when we go to Africa, we always take something for the people, the village that we're going to stay in. And I think that's something people do as Black people anyway. It's not because you're looking to gain any, you're not looking to gain any notoriety because you have so much here that you're giving something. That's not how I take it, how I go. I think we do go. Many people do go to Africa because they feel they have more here than they have there. But one thing I have learned is that we all have what we have. I don't ever see myself taking something to look as the person who is just so loaded in Canada that I can afford to do this. And in fact, when I go, I always get the community to contribute, and I will always explain to them what we're doing and why. And when we go, they may see us that way, and I'm sure they do, but it's not the way that's not in my mind why I go and why I do what I do. From a volunteer, community, philanthropic, with inverted commas, perspective, right? But I think we do have that attitude that we think we have more than somebody else and that we give. But, I think it depends on where you're coming from. I don't see it that way. but I've learned not to see it that way probably, which is probably more to the point. But I think initially you do see it that way because of the Asili.
But one of the things that she says along with that was that the European Lucha where self-definition depends on the existence of others considered to be inferior, incapable, and unworthy. I think that philanthropic notion is linked into that. Their whole power sense of power is just the superiority and looking down on others. But they again, that's the hypocrisy in there. All those words come back together.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That probably explains
There's string attached to their philanthropic.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say this probably explains why my thinking of a philanthropist is a white person who has tons of money. I never ever saw it other than that, and it always and what brought it home to me was I actually went to a workshop that was entitled Philanthropy in the Black Community, because they wanted us to donate like other people. And I went to get an understanding of what that was all about. And I left very disgusted because I had the feeling that they were trying to make Black people become those people. And it really was about corporations, big money people.
Yeah, there's a difference.
It was different.
What they're doing is not philanthropy. We actually do philanthropy for the love of mankind. That's basically what you like. There's a humanitarian thing, right? The philanthropy of corporations is tied politically.
Yeah,
it has strings attached.
Yeah.
This is why I tell some of my friends I don't believe in grants.
yeah,
Because tell me a grant, tell me the grants that have solved problems in our community. They haven't. They say it's designed for economic development or whatever they want to say it does, but it never achieves that goal. And eventually the organization then relies so much on that it becomes a government agency, even though it shouldn't be.
That's what
and it's controlled now, and they lose power because they're not really doing their agenda. They're doing just enough to make sure they get the next grant.
And it's also divisive. It's divisive because everybody is keeping that to themselves.
You're fighting also for the money. You're fighting other organizations for the money. So it creates an interesting dichotomy, like a fractorial dichotomy, like break. And so you got all these little organizations fighting for one piece of the pie, when really there should be, if we really wanted to solve something, like, listen, when white folks want to solve things, they put money into it. For example, when they started doing, when they saw that, that little town in, was it West Virginia, that had the town itself have taken like over 5 million oxycodone pills. Like, there was so overly prescribed, people getting addicted with these high narcotics, they started putting money in. They'll put money, we need to not look at them as bad and all that. I mean,
it's become a health crisis.
I mean, these people are even trying to destigmatize pedophiles. They're like, we should not look at pedophile as a negative thing. We need to, not create this negative stigma. I'm like,
wow.
I'm looking at this like, it's in TED Talk, and there's groups in Germany, they're trying to normalize, they're trying to say that men are naturally pedophiles. Yes, bro. And there's groups in Germany that are trying to, and here and everywhere else, trying to normalize having sex with children.
But to be honest, there are some cultures who do marry children. Just saying.
I mean, what is
and
that?
I mean, and it's not the people you're talking. It's just culturally, some cultures actually marry 12-year-old, 13-year-old girls. I'm not sure about the boys, and they're not called pedophiles though. They're called arranged marriages.
Huh?
I'm just, it's a fact. I am not judging one way or the other. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a
I
perspective.
mean,
It happens.
yeah, I mean, and so what? You said what you said.
No, I'm just saying.
For what reason? What was the reason?
I'm just, it's a fact. It's out there.
No,
That's the devil. Hold on.
Why did that come
Hold
up?
on. That is the devil advocate argument. State the reason.
It's a fact. It's a fact. There are some cultures that marry children young.
Okay,
and I'm not in that culture.
And state the reason why you're mentioning it.
Because
My work, Linda.
That came out of the argument that the Germans are now trying to normalize.
I know.
pedophilia.
Not just Germans.
It doesn't.
There's
I'm
groups.
not agreeing. I am just saying.
There's groups. Linda, what you're doing is talking and not stating the reason for it. So I don't understand what you're saying.
If you say something like that,
I'm not going to say a reason. I'm just saying a fact. I'm just saying a fact.
But why are you saying it?
Something new.
Maybe it's the perspective. Although it's wrong, but maybe it's
no. Listen. I stated
one has anything to do with the other.
Yeah, what?
I don't think one has anything at all.
It doesn't. That's Linda's doing the devil advocate thing again. She always do that. Take it out of the subject matter.
Yeah, that it doesn't relate. If you think about the two things,
it is different.
One has no relation to the other at all.
One is like
this book no more. We be looking at them like that's how they do their stuff. This is like it's weird. Yeah. And not to mention, to keep it a stack, like I'm reading Chancellor Williams' book. The stuff that she be talking about in here, like you can see there's African societies that operate the same way. So it's just a human thing.
Chancellor Williams' book is dealing with the influence of the Abrahamic traditions in Africa.
Nah, I'm like, you can go because he overemphasizes the point. He talks specifically about a kingdom within the Congo, and because he wants to make the point that white people just didn't come in and destroy everything. That no, like black people without no type of white interference brought about their own destruction in ways. Because it's a human thing. Like when I'm reading this thing, if you were to like, it's like the difference between if you was to get a kid and tell a kid what the word is versus to get a kid and then have a kid explain what he understands the world to be. You get what I'm saying? Like this is somebody telling you this is how the world is. But because you got it at such a young age, that's all you understand, and that's how you operate. So all this hypocrisy and stuff, like I don't know if anybody's like really had to think about why I do what I do. Like it's messed up in regards to like you really got to do some self-reflection. Now, in my opinion, you got some African societies that were structured and some secret society stuff that were structured to kind of give people their voice or to understand their voice in a better manner. But like we don't live in that type of society in the sense that we are all indoctrinated, and none of us have. Well, I say so myself. Y'all might have been. But I haven't been initiated into none of those societies that function to be able to express basically your true voice or whatever. So like when so this is, I don't know, it's cool, man. But anytime we start fighting amongst ourselves, it's like, it's the same thing. It's the silly jump.
Well,
because
this is a discussion. And so when things are being mentioned, it should be understood why it's being mentioned. Now, in terms of the Asili, right? We all don't have this Asili. We have. We've been brought up
right now, and I'm literally working through my shit right?
No.
But
See,
now,
listen. You first of all, we don't have power in any way, form. The Sealy. Let's go back to the chart because and
Ra, when you show the chart, can you share screen or are you gonna hold it up?
I'm gonna hold it up because I don't.
All right, cool.
After you speak, Veronica is going to, I think Veronica has something she wanted to say as well. And it's 9 o'clock.
So now, are there people who behave like the Wazunga? Yes.
Yes, Ra, hold it up close. Yep.
The need for power and who's given that power. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of what the Asili is, and I've been always trying to keep us focused on what the Asili is and what's the cause of that, right? And she told you how this whole thing developed, and we had nothing to do with it. What we had was we were brought into this stuff, right? And so the problem is that because we don't have this Asili, we have those who really adopt the Asili, they do well in this society. You know how you don't have this Asili? If you're trying to help people, then you don't have this Asili.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. I guess I'm talking about more of the sense of the potential to do it. Like not only the potential, but like this Cecilia is tied to power. Like who I don't think you can I don't think you can say I don't have this Cecilia but have any power, in the sense that if you did have power, like how do you know you wouldn't be just like them? You know what I'm saying?
Remember, but the
like
whole
power
book
changes
describes, the whole book is giving you a description. It's giving you.
Can we, Veronica's been patiently waiting to say something. Can we
Go ahead. Sorry, Veronica.
No, it's okay. I'm hearing some of the points that I was thinking about, but I think something we're also kind of forgetting is that this whole Asili, this whole power structure is the driving force behind the whole idea of control. And anytime you come into a position where you are battling with that control, right, you are actually part of that Asili. You're part of it. The Europeans that had that, they dominated it. They created a whole system. We are part of it. We're in it. They've changed how we thought. This whole chapter that we just read, right, is so significant in how even this process we're going through right now, right, how significant that is, because what they say to us, all the rhetoric that they're speaking to us is really something that they don't believe or they don't follow. And what they had done was taken from so many different societies and then convinced us too that we didn't have it either. They took our spirituality, they took our connection with nature, they took all of that, right? And said that's not something that that should be even important to us. And so right now we are not operating in our natural sense. Once we are part of this world over here, once we're living in North America, once we're living anywhere else outside of that environment that nurtures the essence of who we are going to be like that Asili that's created for us to make us think how we think.
The distinction, though, here is when you try to be a part of it, what you're doing is surrendering your power to them. This is why you don't. This is why it's not even good at all. You're surrendering your power, right? In the power of like self-determination, dictating how your culture is, the maintaining of your culture or whatever it was, You are surrendering your power. Africans and other majority of people define ourselves as inferior objects to the European domination. We are trained to accept the system of global white supremacy as true. This is what you're doing. It ain't that you are like part of this Cecily. You are the battery. You're surrendering your power. Y'all have to really try to understand the beginning chapters of this book in the chart, because that's what you're doing. You're surrendering. You are trained to accept the system of global white supremacy as true. You are trained to think that this is how we always were, the human race. The whole concept of even like having black and white was their dichotomy, their mental illness. And we're operating off of that stuff. This is what she really dug in. But it seems like some of this stuff is being misunderstood. And you know, I can understand that. I'm cool with that. And if y'all want to review the previous chapters to really get an understanding of what she's saying and review these charts, we can, because the purpose of this is to try to really understand this.
Wouldn't we get it as we actually go along? Because I think each chapter also pulls in everything else that's been said. So sometimes you might not get it at the first one, but then when you read the second one, you get this moment. That's what she meant when she said this. So to me, it's a progression as well. I think we start to put together more of it as we take steps forward.
Yeah, but we're misunderstanding what the Asili is all the time. Every time we have in a meeting, there's a misunderstanding of the Asili.
Yeah,
And every time Eugene is the one who he breaks it down. He agree. Every time I say it, he then finesse it with his wisdom.
No, I think this is foundational for the book. Like the charts at the front of the book is really foundational. Like you gotta get that whole concept of the Asili, because the Asili is really the is the sea, it's who you are in essence, it's the essence of who you are. And if you don't get that, then the rest of the book doesn't make a lot of sense. You can pull a lot of sense out of it, but I don't think you'll get to what she's really trying to get, the message she's trying to get over.
Yeah, just look at the second chart. If you got the book.
You told me to do this last week. I re-looked at it. I'm not sure what
Look at the second chart.
Would I be right to say that basically her writing this book, is this a reflection of the European Asili? Would you agree with that statement?
The book itself?
Yeah, the book itself.
Like the stuff that she's saying, yes, it comes out of the reason why they do what they do is because they have this Asili.
And would she be under this Asili? Would she also be working under that Asili by writing this book?
That's what he's asking, yeah.
Would she be working out of that Asili? No.
Under that Asili by writing this book?
No.
All right, what do you say?
No, I think she is trying to enlighten.
She's doing an anthropological study and explaining this stuff of what's going on. And so the European concept, there's no European concept that truly explains what's happening. So what she did is she went and looked at African concepts, and through that she was able to
frameworks and tools.
It's not the tools, it's not Western. We're not talking about writing a book is a European trait. That's not what we're
We're
saying.
not talking about writing a book, but to write it in this manner. Like just how if you read any of their books,
She created that. She created
she's
that.
doing the same thing to them.
What are you talking about?
And she broke it down. I'm not saying I'm not saying like it's like a bad book or anything like that. I'm also saying
She's
like
not. You're equating apples and
she's using the
oranges.
same tools that she was taught, and I assume the same tools y'all was taught in school, and she's turning
The
it
tools
on
don't
them.
make the Sealy. What you talking about? The
Um,
studying and
think,
methodology.
Are you saying the way we mentioned this at the beginning of the study, that the way the book is written, it's almost like she's writing it in a sort of, the way you'd write your PhD.
Yeah, it's an academic book.
So is that what you're saying? She's writing it in that way. She's using the terminology that she brings up is it's written in a way that it really isn't. It's more for the intellectual and the educators than it is for regular Joe Blow people to read it. I may have just simplified a little bit, but
I'm saying when you read when you read Western European or most of the people that she's quoting in this book and how they're talking about Africans are primitives, Western Europeans are this and that. I'm saying like she's using that same type of framework, but she's turning it on to Western society.
But I don't understand what you're saying though. Like, do any of y'all really understand what he's saying? Come on, break it down because I'm not understanding what he's saying. Somebody understands what he's saying? You're gonna have to explain that a little further, brother, because I'm really trying to understand it. What are you saying? Like, are you saying that being academic is part of the Western Assembly? Like,
it's not. There's a certain way in which anybody goes about doing academics, and she did it as if like it's like if the roles were reversed. So instead of these people that she's quoting, so what's that guy's name? We had mentioned him early in the discussion. Like how Robin Williams. How Robin Williams is or man, I wish I had a better one. But basically, like how a European who says his cultural framework and he goes and looks at another culture and then he talks about basically describes that culture and describes what they do. And oftentimes when you read those books, the view is often negative. I'm saying she's doing the same thing. She's looking at another culture and looking at how that culture is in juxtaposition to her culture from an Afrocentric point. But however, most of the things that she's saying about the culture are negative. I'm not saying it's not true or anything like that, but but she's creating a dichotomy there. So, and whenever you see that dichotomy, like that is still that's the foundation of the European Assembly is to create a dichotomy. And I'm not even saying the dichotomy
the foundation. That's not the foundation of the European. That's not the foundation.
It's to gain power.
To create the dichotomy. Correct. Oh, come
that's
on.
Not
okay. I definitely don't have it right. I can't have it right.
That's not the foundation. I'm trying to tell you.
Don't you have to, if you're going to look at the other, you have to first split yourself. Doesn't she say that first? Like she talks about the objectification of nature. That's the first thing that happens.
Yes.
And then from that,
I mean, we may have to, we if you want, we could go over that again. Like I don't, but no, you're incorrect. And it's not the same. You're making a false equivalency. And she states it why. She actually tells you why. What they do it because if what they did was correct and true, that's different. Throughout the book, she states the whole development and reasoning of why what happened. giving you evidence after evidence. I mean, that's one thing she does. She overwhelms us with evidence of this, and she tells you, like, even like when she used Plato, right? Because this is where you have to understand world history, or why, how things came about, and using Greece and all that, Greek philosophy, and the whole, you got to understand that whole debate that went on, that was having, people were having with um the Europeans.
Yeah, I think the charts at the beginning of the book, especially the second chart, really, you really have to understand it and see, because she's writing the book based on these principles that she put down at the very front. So when you're reading, then you kind of, if you have any problems figuring out where she's coming from, you could always go back to the chart, and you'll see directly where she's coming from, because you'll always see it's all based on
Am I
this.
using the am I using the word dichotomy wrong? Is that not what this chart is right here? Isn't that a dichotomy between myself and the other, and it's in a circle that is labeled the Asili?
Which chart? That's this one here. Okay,
European cultural ego and world domination. The
right,
European Asili seeks fulfillment through power over others.
right. And then what's in the inner circle? Like you're coming into the middle, right? You start at the outside, and you're coming into the middle.
Okay. You know what?
So the whole thing is the Asili, because if I'm not mistaken, the Utama Wazo and the
Listen, brother,
Utama
hold on, bro.
manifestations
First of
of
all,
the
this
Asili.
is not a dichotomy. This thing that you're showing here is not a dichotomy. You really miss. Let me ask you a
So then
question. I don't
said
mean
maybe
to.
I'm using the
I'm
words
not.
wrong.
Let me ask you a question, because I understand you came in at chapter 3 with us,
Yo,
right?
I read the whole book, man.
So you read the introduction
Page
Yeah.
12.
and chapter 1.
Yeah. Page 12.
Yo, I
Expresses the
just said this
esteem.
is dichotomy. I'm showing you proof right here that
No,
like this
that's not a
is
dichotomy. That's not a dichotomy.
If we go to page 12, it talks
Listen
about the
to
esteem
this,
as a
bro. Look,
conceptual
look.
tool. Maybe that might help.
Hold on. Look, this is what it is. Look, this is a whole circle, brother. Well, she's explaining all the stuff that's in there.
yo. So what am I supposed to call the two circles? And one is called the other, and then one is called the self. What
That's
is that?
among everybody, though, bro. What the heck are you doing? Like, she's actually, that's a psycho. That's what they use in psychology, explaining the ego. So she's explaining the ego and how they look at themselves. These are like, if you study psychology, this is how they do these things.
But that's not called a dichotomy.
No, it's
Two
not.
things juxtaposed to
No,
each other.
no, because this is all one thing, bro. This is this brother, you have to understand when she talks about symbols, right? This is like a symbol. This is all one thing. You're separating it. You are creating that dichotomy because you're separating these concepts. This is all one thing. This is all one thing. That chart is all one thing.
I think when we talk about dichotomy, we should go back to the very, if you look at the first chart on the page opposite, it talks about dichotomization. And it gives you a definition, the way she uses the word in the book. So she tells you exactly what she's going to do, and she goes about trying to do it. So a mechanism which accompanies objectification. It is the splitting of a phenomenon into confrontational, conflicting parts to facilitate the pursuit of power over others, and is therefore suited to the European Asili. So go back to the chart.
And around page 30 to 33, it helps with that. on page 30 to 33.
30.
And I think page 12 also helps.
Well,
Page 12.
let's look at page 12 and then page 30, and then we go back to the chart, just to
Yep.
be a little bit more logical about how we're doing this.
Sorry about
Gotta get to page 12.
So which, the first paragraph?
Yeah, Asili.
Yeah, it talks about the Asili.
You want to read it?
Monica, you want to read it?
Okay, sure. Asili, as a conceptual tool for cultural analysis, refers to the explanatory principle of a culture. It is a germinal principle of the beings of a culture. In essence, the idea of a seed, the ambiguous analogical symbol in African philosophical and cosmetological explanations, is ideal for our purposes. The ideal is that the Asili is like a template that carries within it the pattern or archetype model for cultural development. We might say that it is the DNA of culture. At the same time, it embodies the logic of the culture. The logic is an explanation of how it works, as well as the principle of its development. Our assumption then is that the Asili generates systemic development. It is a statement of the logos. The Asili of a culture is formative and is ideological in that it gives direction to development. It accounts for consistency and pattern in culture, also its tenacity. The Asili determines cultural development. Then the form that the culture takes acts to maintain the integrity of the Asili. It acts as a screen, incorporating or rejecting innovations, depending on their compatibility with its own essential nature. It is as though the Asili were a principle of self-realization. It is a compelling force that will direct the culture as long as it remains intact, i.e., carried in the cultural genes. Okay, so I thought that was the last paragraph also speaks to it. In order for the culture to change, and this includes the collective thought and behavior of those within it, the Asili itself would have to be altered. But this would involve a process of destruction and the birth of a new entity. Cultural Asilis are not made to be changed.
And Sunshine, where were you looking at?
Page 33. I think it's like Plato, like how Plato reasons it. And sorry, please let me just get a minute to catch this. Okay, the mind is trained from, okay, so this is about the fifth line down. One, two,
It's
three,
under the
4, 5.
paragraph dichotomization of the notion of harmony. Okay.
Yes.
Mm.
Sorry, say that one more time, Lindis.
That's under the section entitled dichotomization and the notion of harmony.
Right. The mind is trained from birth to think in terms of dichotomies or splits. The splits become irreconcilable, antagonistic opposite. Holistic concepts become almost impossible given this mindset. First dichotomy is presented, then the process of valuation occurs, which one term is valued and the other is devalued. And then if you jump down to the indented.
Before you jump down, Sunshine.
Yes.
Keep on reading, because the next sentence is one is considered good,
Right.
superior, the other is considered bad,
negative, inferior.
Right?
Like yin and yang. Summarizing right here, like yin and yang. And so the process of dichotomization in European itomawazo is of the greatest significance, for it is the dichotomized perception of reality on which the controlling presence imperialistic behavior depends. The utamoroho, which needs the control, is dependent on the antistic opposite presented by the cognitive style, utamorazo, of the culture myth form. This is the last sentence. I'm going to stop here. Realities are split, then evaluated so that one part is better, which mandates its controlling function.
Mhm.
And then that's why I said it's connected to Plato, because the following sentence says, this where we will see the pattern throughout Platonic thought. So it's connected to how Plato talks about splitting and conflicting.
So if you're still confused, she's not splitting reality. She's actually explaining reality. That's why it's not a dichotomy. Now, if y'all want to go to the charts, we can.
Oh, back to the chart.
Yeah, you said go to the charts, right?
Yep.
Okay. It was it you, Eugene, that wanted to go to the chart, or was Linda?
No, I mean, Robert brought up the circular chart that says European cultural ego and world domination. And what I was saying is that it's just, she's just trying to show you how it's all linked up, and the true reason for all these different sections that we have here, it all boils down to European power, maintaining European power. So, you know, it's all connected. She gives you how, like, she breaks it down. She tells you what the Asili, European Asili, seeks to fulfill power, fulfillment through power over others. All right. And then the Utamoroho gets energy from the destruction and confrontation of others. So it's breaking it down as to show you how it's being done. All right.
Basically, she's describing a process.
Right. It's how it's being done. It's the actual, it's the way it's happening. And I mean, you really have to look at it carefully to see how it's affecting you as well, right? Because it affects all of us.
But so the book talks about the European Asili, but it's not the only Asili. Her book is focused on the European Asili and breaking it down. But we have our own Asilis that we are working from as well. So I think we need to be, you know, the book is about the European, she's breaking it down, but we also, I think the confusing bit is her word, she created those words, Asili, Utumawaza, Utumoroho, in regard to the European Asili.
No, but she didn't create dichotomy. The confusion is not understanding the concepts. Dichotomy, Asili, Tomoroho, what she means, what is spiritual, not understanding the glossary. That's where a lot of it, and this thing has to be read more than once. You're not you're not gonna get it immediately just with one read, you know. And so understanding what a dichotomy is important. And to view that chart as a dichotomy, that's not what it is. That's actually explaining, that's for you to understand a process that's happening.
So the process doesn't begin with the dichotomy. It begins with the Asili.
Correct.
Always begins with Asili.
Yes. That's what I was saying all the time. Even when people say, oh, because of the Asili, like, oh, the Asili is doing this. No, the Asili is not doing that. The reason why you do that, it's because it's like this is why they say cultural DNA. They hope that you could see, like, because of your DNA, you look the way you look,
Mhm.
right? Because of your DNA, most of us have glasses because our eyes are busted. You know, because of your DNA, I got hair here, and Eugene don't.
Yeah.
Because of your DNA, Linda, Sunshine, and Veronica are females, and the rest of us are not. We're males. So it's that.
That's how deep it is.
That's how deep this is. Like, so dichotomy is something after it. Is after. So what she says is what they do is the objectification, right? They create, like, they look at you, for example, not as a human being, which in reality you're a Homo sapien. They look at you as something, whatever, and this is what, and there's no connection between you. They look at the universe separate at to themselves. They don't see themselves. Even in science, there's a huge debate in science. I'm like, listen, you can't leave the observer outside of science. The observer is us, our eyes, we see.
Mhm.
So when you say their universe expanding, you need to, like, understand what they're saying, because you are part of the universe. That means you should be expanding too. So a lot of times, this is where, like, in in the African Center community, like J.K. Carruthers, they tell you, they talk about deep thought. Part of the old way was people thought very deeply about these things. We didn't separate religion and spirituality and science. That stuff we didn't do.
Yeah, it's all connected. Yeah.
Things were done through a consensus. You know how hard it is? And then to create a community that actually does that through consensus. So what we have been doing is, we have believed that, they that the Europeans have defined and described everything in the world. No, they haven't. And so we get caught in using their worldview, we are actually misinterpreting and misunderstanding the universe,
Mhm.
the reality, that we're actually dealing with the old man and the Wizard of Oz before we open the curtain. That's what we're dealing with.
Well, and so if this Asili becomes before the dichotomy, so a kid
They
is,
always have.
you said what?
They always have. The Asili always
Okay,
have.
yeah, before the dichotomy. So
Yeah.
basically, when a kid is, when a kid is born,
We're talking cultural DNA. We're not, brother, like, can't be literal. Cultural DNA.
okay.
All
Different level.
right, Robert, man. Listen,
I'm not saying I'm
we're
a
gonna
teacher,
go.
yo. I deal with kids
No,
all the
we're gonna do
time. I
this.
can't come into a mindset thinking that, oh, some kid because of some culture. Like, I gotta connect the dots. Like,
Yeah,
like I said, I'm
what we're
just saying from
doing.
that type of rhetoric, it's like it sounds like, oh, this person. I don't know. I just yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Well, listen, we can continue. Listen, because this is important. I think we could continue on talking about these things. Hopefully, let's read chapter 7. Right, we'll read chapter.
A long chapter.
How
We have
long
to
is
break
it?
it down.
Is it how long is it? How many pages?
How many pages? I've been making it, reading it on my phone. Woohoo.
I applaud you, Sunshine. It's about what, 60 pages?
Wow. Okay.
So you want to do 30 and 30?
Think about this was a short
Yeah,
chapter, and look how long we took to go over this one. So
No. We're going over the whole
That's
entire
what I
book.
think.
This wasn't. We actually finished the chapter early.
yeah,
We're going over the book.
okay, so can
Do
we
you
go
want to
up
read 30 pages?
to
Yeah.
the last section is Reformation, the new role of the church, up to there?
Okay. Do you want to read that section or go just end at
that
this section?
That's
Read
the
the
last
section, okay.
section to read.
Okay.
Page,
Read the new role of the church.
yeah. So you finish at 367.
So we'll do that, and
It'll
every
pick
time
up.
we get a chance, we could go back, because this is why I actually wanted to have the section between 7 to 7:30, because I knew this was gonna happen, and it's important. Robert questions are very important because things need to be understood, right? And so it's not a waste of time, people. So these are important things that we need to be dealing with. And actually I like the fact that with Robert questions, it forces us to go back to the charts and forces us to go back to the beginning. But we need to do that because several times I've heard people use, not you, Robert, others use Esili in the wrong context. I've done that and I actually corrected several times. So we need to be doing these things. This is important. So no hating on Robert, okay? Robert's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and that's
Got it.
asking the questions.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. You got a little heart, Robert. How you do that? I don't know how to do that.
It's at the bottom, right? At the
The
bottom.
reaction.
Where the chat button
There you
is.
go. There you go. Give you a thumbs up. There you go. I ain't gonna give you a heart, brother. You know.
Yeah.
Give you a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. A black thumbs up to boot, right?
No, but it's important. Anybody got any closing statements before I say my hotep and peace to everybody?
No, tonight was really good. There was a lot of parts I really liked that are gonna resonate with me. So one, just when you told us what does nice mean, that's just one.
I think all of this is part of the process, and
Yes.
even for myself, it gave me reason for thought too. Did I really get it? You know, so I think it's very useful to just express even when there's confusions or thoughts.
Yes.
It's so important.
I mean, this is why I told Linda. Sorry. This is what I told Linda, just say what you want to say, because it's important. Look at how much we got just because Robert asked these questions. It was hunkering down on his points. Trust me, I'm sure. Sunshine, did you get something out of Robert's questions and the back and forth? Yeah, I did. You know,
It forced me to go back and say, okay, where did I see this, and did I get it?
Yes. And these two people, Veronica and Sunshine, really brought it together.
The two people that referenced the earlier references were actually looking at reading the book on their computer. So that took a lot of thought going back. You couldn't flick through the book.
Well, listen, from what I hear, Veronica is a master on iPad, like tablet stuff. So I heard she could swallow a book using a tablet.
Wow.
I just wanted to end by saying that but my parting comment is, I think we need to be gentle with ourselves and understand that we are all on a journey together, and that if we get it wrong, we get it wrong, but be gentle in the correction. That's all I have to say.
Veronica, no, I'm not gonna tell. Nope. Don't tell people what to do. Don't tell people how to deliver. No.
Respect it.
No. What were you saying, Eugene? What you say, Eugene?
I said, I don't have any parting words. I like going through this stuff.
If you're interested in tone, then go watch soap opera.
Yeah, to me,
Yeah.
You talking to Eugene?
Anybody who don't like the tone.
No, what I'm saying is it's important to go back and really get, where her view of where she's coming from for this whole book. Because if you don't get that, then you're missing a lot in the final reading and all the readings that we're doing. If you don't get the real concept, then you're missing a lot. That's pretty much all I had to say.
Yeah, I realized actually reading this chapter before we came, I said, this is a book you need to read like 3-4 times. It's not that you don't get it, but it sinks in to the soil like just more. You just kind of get more familiar with it, so you're not reading over and over. It's more familiar with what she's saying.
Yeah. No, I think that the chapter 1 is a definite must read a couple of times.
Yes.
Chapter 1 especially, because not only that you're getting into a new book and a new author and how she's trying to write.
Or academic style, yeah.
And it's not just straightforward stuff. She's coming at you in a very academic way, right? And if you're not accustomed reading that type of literature, then you're going to be thrown off. And I could understand why people pick this book up and then they put it down, because that first chapter could make you do that, right? So it's one of those chapters you got to read again, and got to go to the charts and really see what she's trying to get across.
Robert, you got any closing statements, brother?
No, man, I appreciate oh yeah, I do got closing statements. So I just appreciate the conversation, appreciate learning.
I always in this thing that has happened, I think that we may have not gone through those charts long enough.
It's never too much. They're good.
I think we kind of like flew by them. We didn't. We weren't looking at how important these charts were, like as a group. And I think we flew by them, and I think certain things got lost and disconnect. Also, what I would say this: revisit her video.
Oh yeah, she goes through each chart.
Revisit her video.
And the charts are for every chapter that we go through. There's a chart that's related to it. So
Yes.
definitely, yeah. And you're right. Sometimes we don't refer to it, but that could also help to clarify exactly where we're going and how things are connected. Yeah.
Yeah, revisit the video. Watch her video several times. You'll get things that you miss out of it all the time. You miss. Like there's times where I'll watch an old video. I'm like, damn, I didn't even get this the first time I watched it, or the second time I watched it. Even a movie. A movie. But like, oh, I missed that. That's how come we watch a movie more than once. We could watch a movie more than once. I was just watching The Running Man today, or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay. I've got to run now. On that note.
All right. Okay.
So everybody have a nice.
Have a good week. Have a good week, everybody.
Right,
I know Monday. Hopefully everybody got Monday off.
Yes, please.
America only.
Only the US. Only the US.
We had ours this Monday.
We had ours last week.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Relax.
Hotep, everybody.
All right. Hotep. Shem Hotep.